Here's another SJM update. This comes from SJM's father's blog again, so this comes straight from his mouth, and he is definitely onto something. And from what I gather here, the police are definitely trying to hide something. So let's get into this because, again, I didn't think that this was going to be a very significant blog post. It starts out by SJM's father thanking all of the people who are out there doing one-person demonstrations, really trying to advocate for truth in the Han Rivergate case. But then he says, like, gosh, this whole thing about trying to figure out how his son entered the river, what happened that night, has led him to all of these life experiences that he never thought that he would ever go through, like repeatedly going to the police station, hiring the services of a lawyer. But mainly, this blog post was about trying to get the CCTV footage and then updating us about what response he got. And it is not good, but it really does show. I think this is it. This, out of all of the evidence, has convinced me that the police are hiding something. So a lot of you guys have been wondering, okay, so what has been going on with the requests for additional CCTV footage? We know from the petition to the National Assembly that was successful with the 100,000 signatures that there is going to be a pressure campaign from the National Assembly side to try to release the CCTV footage, but SJM's father has been working since the end of June, making formal requests through the proper channels, through just the regular system, regular citizen system, to try to get the CCTV footage released. And he started on June 26th. He made requests through different various departments. You know, each CCTV camera is operated by a different jurisdiction. So some are operated by the Seocho Police Department, which is the one that is the biggest problem. Some are operated by like the Hangang River Park. Some are operated by Seocho District, like the village community. And some are operated by the Seoul metropolitan city. So he had to make requests to all different agencies, and he got all different types of responses back. And what was most illuminating was the response from the police department. And we got many responses. So let's kind of go through this, because you gotta brace yourself. So the first request that he made to the police, and this is the Seocho Police Department in particular. This is the district that oversees this area. This is the district that people have been wondering, like, why is this particular police department taking the lead versus the main Seoul branch or some other branches? Remember, like, there was some question before who was going to take the lead position, and there were suspicions of what kind of relationships that the family over there might have had with this particular branch of the police. Of course, they're saying officially that there's absolutely no relationship. This is all conjecture, you know, nothing to see there. Well, the Seocho Police Department made a response to the request to release footage from one camera overlooking the Han River Park. And they said, "We're responding to your request to release the CCTV footage from the southernmost end of the Pampo Bridge and traffic cameras from the Olympic Highway. So this is the one that's closest. This is the one that we want the most. This is the one that's closest to the riverbank so that we don't have to look at those tiny little images. Well, this is what they said in response. This case is restricted by laws governing the release of information of public institutions of worries that there will be unintended consequences. Therefore, we have granted partial release. There are laws that restrict the release due to unrelated faces and car license plates recorded in the video. Furthermore, there is judicial precedent to block access because blurring out third parties creates a new video, and that's a justified reason to block access. That part, I didn't really understand. It sounds like word salad to me. It sounds like they're just making stuff up. So if you are a legal expert, please comment below, especially if you know the Korean part. I'll link the blog post where the actual original sentence was. But when I looked at that, I was like, oh no, we've all seen people just try to fake stuff before, and it looked like they were just trying to fake something there. It sounded like a word salad to me. And then the last thing they said was, nevertheless, we considered the position of the victim's family and invited them to view the CCTV footage on May 27th and June 21st. Remember May 27th? That was their scam to bring in the family of SJM, basically lock them up in the police station while they were doing their press conference of their sham of a mid-investigation police report so that they wouldn't have any access to the media to tell SJM's family's side of the story. Anyhow, so they said like, oh, well, we gave 2 opportunities for them to view the CCTV footage. And we said like, you know what, whenever you want to come back, the door is open. You can come back and look at the CCTV footage no matter what. This is so manipulative because essentially they only showed him the partial the cameras that were like, you know, the ones where we were all the same ones that we all had access to. And guess what? That CCTV camera that was released by this City of Seoul. So City of Seoul had no problem. Like, there were unrelated faces there. There were unrelated cars there. They just released it. They released it to the media. That's why we were able to see it. And SJM's father said like, that was the video of that intersection, you know, and how we're zooming in, like, you know, and like we're watching it from essentially like 10 p.m. to all the way up to like 8 a.m. He said countless citizens, experts have been poring over this CCTV footage and offering their analysis countless hours. Well, that was released by not the Seocho Police Department because they do not have jurisdiction over that camera. But the police department were like, oh yeah, well, you can kind of look at, you know, the stuff that's already kind of out there. SJM's father said that when he went to go look the first time, they gave him a tiny computer monitor and he was just like looking. Then the second time he said, okay, give me the biggest thing you can give me. They hooked it up to like some rickety old 40-inch TV, and he said that it had bad resolution and it was flickering. The excuse that the police department brought up was a law governing public institutions, 공공기관. So that also includes non-police organizations and entities, basically any kind of public institution. So why didn't the City of Seoul also give that excuse? Why is only the police department making that excuse, and making a very weak excuse at that, because this stuff does not make sense. Does not make sense. And just on a side note, you know, like when people are saying Korean is very hard to learn, even Korean people have a hard time because people, it seems to me, purposely write stuff like this when they want to get away with things. So he says it goes without saying that additional CCTV footage is critical. And of course, the police know this because SJM's father has been very specific about what footage he really wants to hone in on and what he really needs. The 3:31 a.m. fall or push over the riverbank. We have a much clearer picture of that in terms of a cleaned up image, so I'll include that here. Also, the 4:30 a.m. time period where Mr. A was supposedly woken up on the riverbank by a passerby. So again, Mr. A has been placed on the riverbank where SJM supposedly had also gone missing around that time, where there was also some sort of incident where somebody had gone over, yet they did not investigate that, and the CCTV would be very vital for that. And then also the time period around 5 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. when Mr. A and his father went back to the park and went down to the riverbank and were doing something down there. Well, they said that they were searching for SJM, but how long does it take? You know, we've been there together, right? When I went to go visit, you literally just look around for probably 15 seconds and you can tell if somebody's there or not. And then you can like walk up and then you go look somewhere else. Why were you there for half an hour? What were you doing there? And so that's what, especially the southernmost camera from the bridge would tell us. And yet they said, oh, it's probably because of we really want to protect privacy of people who are not related. But that is pointing at like a riverbank. I mean, are they trying to protect like the privacy of like ducks and birds and rocks and maybe like grass that's growing at like 1 centimeter a month? I mean, what are they really trying to pull here? Especially when the city of Seoul had released that video of people just coming in and out of that tunnel, go in and out, going back and forth this way, back and forth this way. I mean, there must have been thousands of people in that video, and you don't hear City of Seoul complaining. So what's going on there? And what was really suspicious about the paperwork that came back, it looked like it also came from a lawyer's office, from like a legal defense team, because they're throwing in some sort of like laws, you know, like this is the law that we are complying with. But it seemed like it was so kind of like pulled from like kind of like a legal Wikipedia that didn't even really make sense. Like they're saying like, we cannot release information from public institutions if information is related to an ongoing trial, investigation, prosecution, or charges if it impedes with the work of employees or gets in the way of the accused for a fair trial. But the police themselves said, investigation's over. Nobody is being prosecuted here. There's not even somebody who is a suspect. Remember, Mr. A never, ever was an official suspect. And they concluded from their investigation that there was no criminal link or activity or connection whatsoever. This investigation, in terms of the police's perspective, is over. So that part of whatever Wikipedia that they found that in does not apply. And then the second thing they said is like, if there's a threat to your name, resident registration number, I don't know who puts their resident registration number on their chest while they're walking around the Han River Park, or they're saying private details of your personal life or intrusion of your freedom, then they can block it. But this to me sounds like, I mean, if they're talking about resident registration number, I think this is actually referring to probably documents, and they probably like pulled this thing out from a some like I said, a Wikipedia, when they're talking about like not releasing paperwork, not security footage in relation to this type of situation. Why? Because the city of Seoul did it, the convenience store did it, like the other institutions all complied. Why is the police, out of all the institutions, the only institution not complying with public safety? They're supposed to be protecting the public safety. Why are they not complying with public safety? So the process for SJM's father on this road is he has to sue. He has to do an administrative lawsuit to challenge these legal Wikipedia codes and have his lawyer try to reverse and then get the police department to say like, oh, I guess we were wrong. I guess we do have to release these videos. And they have to do this case, I believe, on each instance. So for basically each CCTV camera that the police control. So it makes it a lot harder. They're trying to make it, you know, like a lot of hoops to go through. So it could be a little bit frustrating, but I'll tell you why. I mean, he releases some text messages later on in this blog post that I think actually it looks discouraging, but it is super encouraging because I think he has him cornered. So SJM's dad is probably a bit demoralized. He's probably tired because definitely when you go through this kind of situation, and especially the way that he opened this blog, he's basically saying again, like, I had no idea the world was like this. I had no idea how essentially horrible people were, how unfair society has been set up, and how blind I was to it all up until now. And that's a hard place to be, especially when you're forced to go through it. But the great thing for him, at least, he knows that he's not alone. But it's still very difficult because it is so draining. But he says that, wow, he has to be the one that sues to try to get this CCTV camera footage that has been created and stored with taxpayer money. Yep, exactly. And he reminds us that even though the police back in June, when they abruptly canceled the investigation, they said that, oh, we're going to try to create a fair continuation of this investigation by creating that committee. And they said that the committee was going to meet for 2 weeks minimum. And everyone was like, that looks a little bit shady. Let's see how it goes. And then they wrapped it up within like a day and a half or 2 days. And they're like, oh, no, we decided to end it early. And then SJM's father filed those criminal charges against Mr. A for either physical violence or abandonment. And the police said, well, even though this investigation is completely closed and finished, we'll keep one investigative team on the case just to respond to SJM's father's, filing. But SJM's father says that they've done nothing and they have not even contacted him once. Not once. So he made another request for CCTV footage from that busy interchange, right, that we've all seen that goes towards the river, but in the opposite direction that goes towards the apartments. That is run by the district of Seocho. And so it's like the hamlet within Seoul. So it's not like the Seoul metropolitan government, but like the hamlet or the mini village within Seoul. And they said that too much time has passed, so it's been deleted, but it had footage of that area towards the apartments. And then also, remember there was footage from unanswered questions that showed the plaza and the fountain area? Yeah, that was there as well. But they said like, oh, too much time has passed, so we deleted it. But the police have a copy, so you have to go to them. Of course, the police are not going to give it to SJM's father unless he sues for that as well. And not only did SJM's father request more CCTV footage information, he requested more information from the National Scientific Criminal and Investigation Laboratory in the findings. And I believe this is the forensics investigation. And they just said like, oh, well, we agree with what the Seoul division found. And then essentially what the Seoul division found said like there was nothing of interest on the remaining items. So that means that there was something that they found on the remaining items, but they said it's nothing of interest, which sounds so shady. It sounds so shady because that seems like a very qualitative, subjective judgment, especially when you don't tell us what exactly those things were and did not leave it up to a third party to also assess to see whether it was of interest or not. Why do we not have a third-party verification system? We need a third-party verification system just to even log into our email. Why can't we have a third party verify whether it is of interest or not? And then the last CCTV request was made to the police department again. This was for a camera shot at the intersection of Pampo Bridge and Olympic Highway. Olympic Highway is that big highway that runs along the southern part of the Han River. And this one apparently is very high up, but it's from a different angle, so it would offer a great opportunity for a different type of analysis. But then that was also denied. And then SJM's father wrote in big bold letters that the police had told him before, the door's open whenever you want to come back to view the footage. So then, okay, so he's been denied. So then he might as well just go back and try to see the footage again of what is available, right? So he tried to do that in the middle of September. He's telling us how that went when he tried to arrange a time and he just got denied. These were some of the shadiest text messages I've ever seen. They remind me of like a shady, like cheating husband or wife, a shady, cheating like business partner, somebody who has something really to hide. SJM's father really wanted to focus on looking at the CCTV camera footage from 5:12 a.m. to 5:20 a.m. Why? He wanted to focus on Mr. A and his father when they went back to the park and when they went to the riverbank. He messaged them saying like, okay, well, you know, I have like all this like paperwork that I have to do to, you know, go back and forth to the police department. So while I'm there, I might as well go look at the footage since you said like, hey, come back anytime. They ghosted him for the whole day. He sent this message like at 10 a.m. and then he didn't hear back, and it was like 6 p.m. he sent another message saying like, okay, I'm gonna be at the police station anyway tomorrow. Hey, why don't I drop by? An hour later, like around 7 p.m., they're saying like, oh, you can't come tomorrow. We have an event, so like our boss will let you know when you can come. Okay. So then the next day, the police said that, you know what, turns out that anything after 5 a.m. on the day where your son went missing has nothing to do with your case. Therefore, you are not allowed to see the CCTV camera footage. So not only can they not get additional CCTV camera footage, the footage that they had been able to see before, they put a cut line at 5 a.m. So shady. So shady. So then he kept trying, right? And then they said like, oh, we're so busy on other cases. And then they said, well, we know that you're like suing us for other CCTV footage to be released. So let's see how that goes and we'll take it from there. Take care. Okay. After all of this behavior from them, looking at how they officially responded through the channels of the request and then putting up that like Wikipedia legalese that doesn't even make any sense, and then these text messages where it looked obvious that they were consulting with somebody. Nobody takes that long. You know, in Korea, sometimes it annoys me at how fast they expect a response because everybody is responding so quickly. Nobody takes 12 hours to respond to a text message, or 10 hours. Nobody takes that long unless there's something going on. Nobody suddenly has like all these events pop up. Who does that unless you have something to hide? This is shady beyond shadiness. So, most of the time, when you're in this kind of situation, you're gonna be discouraged. Because you're just like, how can they do this? The gall, the audacity, the craziness. However, it just proves, SJM's father, that you have cornered them. You have them shaking in their boots. You are winning right now. And so you better keep pushing because they are on a serious defensive position here. They are scared to make up some sort of crazy excuse to block you from not seeing the footage after 5 a.m. when they know that's already totally blurry and it's already like on the internet too. That means they totally have something to hide. And that is a clear indication that they are scared. And so instead of being discouraged by that, I would say be encouraged by that. So yes, I do think that you should continue on with the legal channels, but really do just let your lawyer take care of it because that's just a channel that's going to work or not work. But use each time you have to appear in court to do your next filing because it's going to purposely be delayed. They're going to play games with it. So then why don't you go along with the game? Because every time they want to delay it gives you even more of a chance to then stick it into them through some sort of media play. Talk. Do whatever they always do. Bring some new message, a new point that is easily digested by the public. The problem that I found with people who still are just passive in Korea, where they could still believe like the unanswered questions, hot daddy position, is that the first thing they say is like, oh, wasn't he just drunk and then that's how it happened? Is because they want to kind of like tuck it away in a drawer and forget about it and have an easy answer. Most people are selfish. They just want to have an easy way, because it takes too much brain work, easy way to understand something and then just put it aside. So in order for, I think, for this to work, is that there has to be some sort of easy but stimulating alternative to an easy explanation that will encourage somebody to take it back out of the drawer. So it's not necessarily about what or how about the CCTV. It's all about what are the police doing to you. How is it going to affect your life? So I would say some candidates, I don't know, this probably takes some more brain work and this is not me doing it, but some of the candidates could be, well, who are the real spy cam perverts? you know, if the police just hold on to all of the CCTV footage. Sounds like a pervert to me. I don't know, that might be a little bit too much. Or, looks like the police have something to hide. These text messages look like they have something to hide. But I think the easiest one for him to say is that the police are in a corner. They're afraid. Just make that claim. I don't know if they're scared or not. I don't know if they care or not. But just say, the police are in a corner. They are afraid. And then people are like, what? Why? Why are they afraid? Because we got them. And they're like, well, why? You know? It's much easier to explain your position that way. Instead of saying like, I went to go file for the CCTV and then they sent me back this thing that doesn't make sense with like this legal jargon, and then this is, people are like, what? Wasn't he just drunk? You know? You have to make it easy for people to understand, and it has to be more about like, how is it going to affect them? And I only tell you because from my own experience, I have told people repeatedly something that has happened to me, and they forget. They forget. And sometimes I wonder, how could somebody who calls themselves a friend forget something that important to you? But they just do. Because they don't want to hear the details, and yet they think they do, but they don't. They just want to know how it's going to affect them. So you have to hit them on an emotional level. So I'll just say, the police are scared because it's all going to come out. I would focus on the father. Or that text message between SJM and his friend before he went to the park, where they talk about somebody else passing away. What was the connection there? Did something like this happen before? That is easier to talk about. If you said, did this happen before? Especially if somebody comes out with that information. This happened before. Did this happen before? That suddenly spins the story in a different direction. You don't need lawsuits for a CCTV camera in that case. Something happened before. They were talking about it in that text message. I think that needs to come out. We need to hear about what they were talking about. Who was that friend? And I'd like you guys to maybe brainstorm on that as well, because I'm sure there's something there. Because there are a lot of human elements to this case. Anyhow, so I do believe that the police are showing their true colors. They did try to hide something here. They are trying to hide something from SJM's father, and it is abundantly clear SJM's father brought the receipts big time. All right, guys, we'll see you again next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.